Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Always the Worst. We,
Hey, what's happening?
anyway, I'm Chris, as always, joined by Mark today. Only Mark, because Micheal had to go be, a real boy and get a job and all that stuff.
Wait, what? Are you saying we're not real? Oh, okay, never mind.
Until we go back to work, we are just children right now.
Mm. You are
Yeah,
correct, though. I'm not gonna deny what you are saying.
but it's fine. It's fine. So, how are you, Mark? How are you doing today?
I am perfectly good. Thank you very much.
Good.
Not had much to do apart from waiting for people to come try and drill a hole in my ceiling, but
Yeah,
it's all good. That's for another day. It's for another
yeah. We got a
day.
shed delivered today, which was always fun.
Shed?
Yeah,
What the hell?
I know, right?
Uh, did you build it or did you just leave it
Oh no,
out?
it's just left lying outside at the moment.
Cool, cool, cool.
No,
And it should remain there for the next 4 to 7 months.
exactly. So just to let everybody know, on OBS, I do not have a chat bar the now. So
Hey, that's useful.
I've got it on my phone the
Well,
now. So hopefully I'll just see messages coming through.
it's not always the worst unless something's going wrong, right?
Very true. OBS just doesn't like
Uh,
this way of doing things, but that's a minor issue for us. That's
yeah, it really is.
like,
Because I can just look at it on
yeah,
Twitch. I can see the
yeah.
chat.
I can,
It's
I
no
can see
problem.
it. I can see it. We're all good. And we're going into the girly dragon tattoo, and I'm emotionally drained. Mark, this has destroyed me a little bit
Uh,
inside.
so you hadn't seen these movies
No, and I
before,
had to
had you?
watch those two parts twice, and both of them were horrible and so
Hmm.
horrible.
Yep, it's a pretty fucking grim film in
Yes.
all regards, really. But I guess for people who haven't seen
Yeah.
them, the films are essentially like I don't know, film noir type thing, like an investigative
Yes.
sort of crime drama, involving two characters, one called Lisbeth and the other one called Michael, and they're both kind of investigating what do we call it? Like the idea of a disappearance or a murder
Yeah.
of a young girl, and it's all about their lives in between and
Hmm.
how fucked up things can get.
Yes, it's like it's almost a film of two films that end up smashing together because you have
Yeah, yeah,
um, uh, Liv's story, which is
yeah, yeah.
full of how she is the way she is, and the fact that sexual abuse is basically ran her whole life. Then you have Michael's
Hmm.
story, which is about the mystery of the girl who's went missing, who they think's dead, but they don't know if she's dead.
Hmm.
But they're assuming the family murdered them, and then through just coincidences and going over each other, they end up merging into helping each other. Kind of.
Yeah, to make a kind of a dream team
Yes.
to solve the case.
Yes. Very true.
Yes. Yeah, and it's like I mean, this film itself, while the mystery is actually quite
Hmm.
interesting and and quite like little twists and turns, it's mostly about the characters
Yes. Very
and
much so.
like how the roles they play and the kind of like their attitudes and stuff. It's a very it's very they're very good films.
Yes. And what I've liked from watching the both of them is they both follow the story pretty much to the
Bang,
letter.
right, bang on. I don't think there's. Can you think of any
There's a bit of a
differences?
deviation on Anita, on the introduction of Anita and the remake, because Anita in the original is dead from the get go,
Mm.
whereas we get introduced to Anita in London, which turns out to be a big reveal later on with who Anita
Yeah.
is. But outside of some character differences, there's some like smaller differences to make their motivations slightly different. Like the reporter's big thing in the remake, there's a lot of money involved for keeping these company alive with the deal with the family to get their. But there's
Yeah, I
nothing
mean
story.
that's in there as like
Yeah,
kind of like I think the thing to take away from it is that essentially like these movies are both exactly
yeah,
the same story because they're not based on like they're not necessarily what you would call your typical remake
no,
because they're both based on a
yeah,
novel that exists and is quite
mm-hmm.
popular. So if they were to deviate too much from that, they'd probably get a lot of
Yeah.
flack.
It's
But
it's how the actors portray themselves are. It's quite different.
mm,
Like Daniel Craig's reporter is a very different breed from the original
mm,
Micheal, and
yeah,
it is very much a different style and from very European feeling. to a bit more Americanized on how they portray themselves and kind of go through at times.
Even though he's very
Yeah, yeah,
British.
but you know what I mean. But it has a
Well,
very more westernly feel.
yeah, so I think like because as I say, like trying to compare the stories, there's nothing really
No.
that much different. But everything comes down to acting, to directing, to cinematography, and all that. Because all of that is very fucking different, right?
Yes,
Like
that
that's where the major changes are in this movie.
because one of the big bits is right. So Mikel's whole situation, what we'll quickly cover it, is he went and wrote a story about a big conglomerate who's doing shady stuff, but
Mm.
gets given false information, which takes him off his original story, that pushes him to the more extravagant side of it,
Yes,
and it's
side of libel,
yes, and
pretty
and then
much.
it's all fake. It's like he's been completely set up to take the hit, and from that he meets the Vanger family.
Vanguard?
Vanger,
Yeah, I'm guessing
Vanger
that's
family, who the head of it, he begins with a H. Was it
Henrik,
Henrik?
is
Yeah,
it?
that's the word.
Henrik,
Big
Henrik, yeah.
Henrik, who wants someone to investigate the disappearance of his grandniece, who he's kind of took under his wing,
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
is.
Because he's the only member of the family that he actually
Yeah,
liked.
do you know what that is? He's the only member of the family who isn't a fucking Nazi.
Yeah.
But he wants to find out what happened because he's like, I know she's been killed by one of my family, which is like,
Mm.
what? In the remake, see the head of the household. Is that the guy from Knives Out? Is
Uh, I think it
because
might
it's
be because
basically
I got
Knives Out in that bits of this.
because when I because I was watching that again and I was going through why does this like is this the same cast?
Yeah,
Like it's got Daniel Craig and it's got him. Yeah, he is a
yeah,
nice out. Yeah, yes, he's the main character in that one as
because
well, who's getting these murder
yeah,
investigated.
because I watched it going. I've not seen Knives Out yet, but I keep because me and Donna want to watch it together, and we've just not put some time aside. But I was watching it going
Mhm.
from the clips I've seen of Knife Out. I'm going when he's describing what's happening, and everyone going, "Is this Knives Out? Am I watching Daniel Craig just doing his like his wee show reel?"
No, they are very
Yeah,
different
yeah,
takes. Each character is played very
okay,
differently, so it's a testament to their
yeah,
acting ability.
cool.
But yeah,
So
like
when he's on there to look for this girl, and his portrayal of Micheal is brilliant. I like Daniel Craig's Micheal way better than original Micheal.
yeah, I think right. So one of the major things that obviously comes up is that like I think the character feels a lot more relatable to us as people who are like obviously from the UK
Yes.
and like we understand his mannerisms and his way because what's great about his depiction is it's a guy who in his self thinks he's the coolest shit, right? He thinks he's super confident, a womanizer, he thinks he's so cool. But when shit goes down, he like fails at every turn. He's such
See when he
a
gets the nick in the head and she has to pour
yeah.
it over. He's like, ow, ow, oh, don't do that. Like, this is
And
gold.
he's crying about it
Yeah, it's so
afterwards as
fucking.
well, sitting in his room going, "Oh my
I
God,
can't
like what am I
believe it.
gonna do?"
Well, the other guy is stoic fucking hero. He's just like, we need to solve this. So,
Mm.
I'm like,
Yeah,
he's cool. I find him really cool, the first guy, but he's a bit too stoic when he makes him not as
yeah. I
relatable.
think that's the thing. Not as relatable yet because also like we don't really get to see that kind of womanizing
No.
side of him almost because we know that he has the similar situation where like he's a divorcee with a child who's in her like early 20s maybe younger.
Yes, or something like
I
that.
don't know how.
Something like that.
Yeah, but and he's kind of flirting with the women at his office. That's caused all these troubles, and he's like getting involved with. Oh, is it the cops are showing up for me? That's um yeah, and so but we don't really get to see those characteristics
No.
from him. Do you know what I mean? Like in the Swedish version, it's like you're kind of sitting there going, "You seem very humdrum for a man who
Yeah.
managed to fuck up quite a lot of stuff."
This was the thing with the remake that I felt has the same running time, but I feel there's so much
Mhm.
more in it. Like
Yeah,
character
I mean,
development in the remake is a lot.
well, I'm kind of half and half when it comes to certain things because see when it comes to the character of Lisbeth, right? Okay, right. In they play very differently again.
Yes.
Like so Rooney Mara's version in the American one is like she's very introverted and very like closed
Hmm.
off and like doesn't seem to want to make contact.
Yeah.
Whereas like Numi Rapace's like version, she's so like and angry and in your face and stuff. She's always like pure like, what the fuck are you
Yeah,
saying? Like I'll knock you out kind of thing. So it's very different takes on antisocial
yeah.
behavior.
I really enjoyed the original version of her better. I
Yeah.
really did. I felt like her file, and I like the fact that you didn't know anything about her past. You got hints at it, but you didn't get see like the burning
Mhm.
of the man. You don't get told
Yeah.
that's her dad. You have to kind of maybe put that together because when I seen it, I thought it was an abuser that would just come round and abuse her.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the other
Where
one
I
that
think,
kind of I feel the American one kind of holds your hand a little bit too much. It gives you a wee bit too much information.
well, see, I think the major reason for that is um the Swedish one was going to be a trilogy,
So you're gonna get more
right?
information in the newer
Yeah, you
ones.
get more information later on, but the American one, like, we might as well just like call it what it is because it's not tied to the
No.
sequel, right? This American one, this is like decades
Yeah.
apart kind of thing. This is just David Fincher's version of
Yeah.
that story, right? And I feel like he didn't want to do it as a
No.
series. I think he just wanted to do that one story because he
Yeah.
liked the investigation
Hmm.
side of it. So having those parts about her character kind of thrown in as like almost like a joke,
Hmm.
like, oh, by the way, I burned my dad and I failed to kill him, but I tried
Yeah.
my best kind of thing. Like, and having those thrown in as little jokes kind of works
Hmm.
in its favor because it's like, I'm never going to get to this,
Yeah.
but by the way, this is what I'm like.
Yeah. Um, what it is I just love the way that David Fincher films things. Like, see if I
Mm.
because the cinematography in the original was fine. It's kind of
It's like it's good for a
yeah.
movie, right? But it's not the best you've
You
ever
can't
seen in
even.
your life.
It's not something you could pick apart, but it's not something you can go, "Whoa, this is amazing." It's just like does its job. I'd have loved to have seen that original story with David Fincher kind of cinematography to it because his cinematography is gold. I love the way he does that because
Well, it's the thing is like because obviously he's not the
yeah,
cinematographer, right? But all of his movies look
exactly the
exactly the
same. Yeah, he's
same.
got this. Like you could put a side by side of this and say Social Network, which is a good example of a more modern one of it he's done, and the tones are the same. The color palette's the
Yeah.
same. The way he moves the
Yeah.
camera are the same, and I love the way he does that. It's like outside of short storytelling, I enjoy that look. That's kind of too perfect, where it's kind of off.
I feel like he must be the most hands-on director in
Yeah,
like the whole of Hollywood. Like, he must be like just like every single aspect he's
I
controlling
think so.
because I think it's his past like um I don't even know how many, like 5 or 6 films. He's used the same cinematographer. He's used the same like audio team. He's used the same like soundtrack producers. All of that stuff. It's like he's just got his little exact team that he
Yeah,
knows he can trust and can do what he
which is
wants.
such a cool thing. I know we're getting off topic of the films, but I think that's a cool thing for a director to have a team that they can always go back to for films,
Mhm.
because that's when you end up seeing good directors end up not making the greatest film sometimes, where their directing of it is fine, but their team
Mhm.
round them changes. So instead of having your cinematographer in that you really love and he knows your vision, well, they can't do it. Same with your sound guys. Same with your camera operators. Things like that. So all
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah. Even stuff like that, like little bits that you need to know that that guy's going to be able to do what you
yeah.
want to
Like
do,
the
right? Like,
guys
you're going to be like,
actually
go.
working the lights, like standing there getting it just right.
No incidents is what's his name again? In the Terminator film where he was like screaming at the
Yes,
guy holding the lights.
yeah. Oh, Christian Bale and Salvation.
Christian Bale, that's what
Oh
it was.
man,
Yeah.
that was
Oh my.
terrible.
Spear, the fucking lights are in the way, man. Such a good
It's
man.
just funny watching him because he's very method in his thing. So he'd have an American accent the whole way through, and then the minute he gets annoyed, it breaks and he goes back to that his daft Welsh voice.
I love that he's forgotten
Yeah,
that he even was Welsh. Like, he can't even remember what he sounds like anymore. But anyway,
yeah,
not about Christian
yes,
Bale, but like, so like basically like this is where I find it really hard to kind of compare because I have not seen any more work of Niels Arden Oplev, right? Okay. And because I'm not like massively into a lot of Swedish cinema, I honestly couldn't tell you other films that he has made. So I am not. It makes it difficult for me to kind of get into his filmmaking
yeah,
style and like kind of like see where he's coming
hmm
from. But I've seen a lot of Fincher,
yeah.
and I don't think I've been
No,
disappointed by any one of his films.
no. I
So
I liked. I've always there's always that thing of a remake or a reboot or whatever you want to call this being subpart of the original because of like either falling too close or deviating too much. I feel like he had a nice blend where he put enough of his stamp on it that you go,
mm.
it's a David Fincher film. You're watching a David Fincher film, but it's close enough to the story. Well, it is the story. The story doesn't change. To
No, it's exactly the
to the
same. Like in my
yeah, I
opinion.
think he
Yeah.
did the right choice, but not changing the story. And just going, well, I'm going to give you the David Fincher version of that story of how it
Well,
looks and how it feels.
yeah. So I mean, like, the only thing is like it's all in the character
Yeah.
actions. I feel is where things just differentiate in the story, because obviously you've got like oh, what's his name again? The one that Stellan Skarsgård plays.
Oh, Martin.
Uh,
Is that Martin?
Martin. Yeah, I keep getting
Martin.
Micheal in my head,
Martin.
but I was like,
Martin.
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 Yes. So
That's an old
like
joke that I don't
the
think
different
anybody gets. It's an
was
old
it?
YouTube thing, and I'm not going to actually tell you what it's
No.
from because it's not
It's
nice.
just but,
It's a
okay,
Scottish
right.
thing.
But
Scottish thing, though.
so Martin's character, right? Okay, obviously, like this is spoilers getting into it, but like Martin is a bit of a badgin, right?
You say it,
Just a bit,
just a wee bit. He's not the nicest
just a wee
fella
bit.
in the world, is he?
He's a fucking absolute sociopath, psychopath, murderer type
Mm-hmm.
person, right? But what is brilliant about his portrayal in the American version is that he's so calm, even when he's like faced with the idea that he's probably going to get busted. Like he's been found out and like he's about to commit another murder like at this second, but he's just sitting there like you're, oh, so how did you find out? Like
Yeah.
tell me some more and like
Oh, it's so good.
it's but him in the Swedish version, he's kind of like he's like super violent and he's like I mean, it's gonna be he gets like he loses his facade
Yeah.
the second he's kind of busted. And I feel that kind of like
Takes away.
it doesn't work for the
Yeah,
character. Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
that's the thing. I think in the original with him, he's not a part of it enough. So when you get told about him being the baddie, it is a proper
Yeah.
reveal. It is a real twist because you're like, oh, but at the same time, you don't get enough time spent with them to care about it the same. You're just going, oh well, it was one of the family. Whereas in the
Yeah.
reboot, he spends more time with them than Henrik. That's the difference. Henrik,
Yeah, they kind of like because they separate Henrik out of the story
yeah,
to make it more about like him.
yes.
What-
So I
Yeah.
kind of like that.
What?
One of the wee nods I loved, I just loved this at the beginning, and it was that thing to give you a hint that he's the baddie. Was just going, oh, someone's left a door open here, and he goes away to close it because it's his fucking basement door thing where he's got the dead people. I'm like, oh, because I watched the
Oh,
first one and then watched the remake. I was like, oh my god, it's the basement. He's left the basement open, and it's just such a lovely bit that you miss. I'm like, that's beautiful. Just such a
and
good.
there's like lots of really nice subtle hints in the Fincher version as well. It's like the when he's having the dinner party and you blowing
Yeah,
and it's like it just sounds like someone's screaming and he's like, oh, it's just the wind coming through my house.
yeah,
Like but when you get to like the later parts, like the wind does scream through the doors when he
yeah.
opens them, but it's nothing like what it is in there in the first
No,
one. It's
no.
like that was definitely a person.
Yeah,
Like
it's really good. Something that I didn't like with Fincher's version, that I want to get into,
mhm.
is
Okay.
see the mystery part of the film to Liv's part of her psychological kind of torture thing.
Mhm.
One is I enjoyed her abuser better in the original because he was this
Enjoyed. Careful.
yeah, you
Right.
right. His portrayal was I was more unsettling for me because
Mm.
he had a power aspect to him. He felt like a powerful guy
Ah,
taking
yeah,
over her.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Where in the remake, he was a bit of a slimy guy that happened to have a bit over her.
Well, so this is the again the differences in the character. It's like because the Elizabeth in the Swedish version, as I say, is kind of like you can tell that she's all about power and
Yeah,
kind of like because she's quite buff, like
yeah,
she's really quite ripped. She's quite angry all the time and likes getting into fights. So you can see that in her character. But so like I think they needed to have someone like that who was
mm,
more kind of dominating and you could see was an imposing person
yeah,
to kind of put her on the back foot to make that believable.
yeah,
Whereas in the Fincher version, she is more like she
subdued.
just doesn't she doesn't she wants to keep her distance from people all the time. So someone invading her space
Yeah.
would you can see how that would
Yeah,
like put her
it
on the back foot.
it works. It totally works.
Hmm.
It's just I enjoyed the portrayal better than the other one because it felt so fucking unsettling. And then see the build up to all that moments was so violent. Like so, big thing is he basically forces sexual acts on her to get money, so she can get money from him because he's her
He's
counselor,
holding, yeah, he's
and
holding
he
her finances and
yeah,
stuff.
and she just God, I hated watching it twice, but see, I'm glad I watched the first one, the original first, because I don't know if I'd have the stomach to watch it after watching Fincher's then that, because it's a lot worse in my opinion. Obviously, just the way he grabs heads and does things, and it meant see when the payoff when she fucks with him is
Mm.
is such a release because you're like fucking get him you bastard, and I didn't have the release the same with the other one.
The
Uh,
Fincher one, no,
yeah,
no.
it was still powerful, but it was not as powerful as original because I think they, as you're saying, it's a power thing. It's all about
Mm.
power, and I think using that dynamic, especially in this subject matter, was a really clever way to do it for me. I
Yeah,
thought it was a nicer way for her revenge, and then it leads into everything else, which because
yeah.
then you
I
get
mean,
her softening when she meets Micheal. I like the
mm.
progression of her
Well,
kind of opening up more.
see, I think what they both do really well in their own kind of unique ways is when it comes to Mikael, like in her relationship with him, is they both do it correctly
Yeah.
where it's her who is just like she's essentially using him to kind of regain like her confidence and
Yes.
her like sexual being. She's kind of like you know what, fuck it. It's you're gonna be mine, right? And it's kind of like she's a certain power and
Hmm.
dominance and kind of like trying to like regain a bit of herself,
Yeah.
and in doing so, she like breaks down those barriers again and is kind of willing to
Yeah.
let someone in.
Yeah. I wish the relationship in the original was a bit more front facing because I
Mm,
love the relationship in the remake. That's just the thing with this film. Both of them do their jobs really well, but there's a difference in how they play it, and it's just
mm.
pure preference. This isn't digs at
Yeah,
what film's better or worse because the
because for me,
relation. Sorry, on you.
I want to say like see for me the part that kind of in the Swedish version is the fact that she goes back to bed with him
Yeah.
like the night after. You know what I mean? Like, but in the Fincher version, it's like she uses him for that one off, and then it's quite a long time before you see that she's building up these kind of connection to
Yeah.
him. Whereas in the other one, it's kind of almost right away that she's like, "You're, I just want to kind of like be next to you," and it's like, okay, I mean,
It was him that wanted to be next to her in the original.
was it? I thought
Yes, yeah, no, because what happened was they had sex original night, and then she has the best moment. It's just so fucking funny. He goes, "Why are you leaving?" And then she just with a towel or something around her waist just goes, "Good night," and wanders off. And
yeah,
then they have
that's all right.
sex
So
again,
yeah,
and then she turns over to go to sleep, and he tries to cuddle her, and she's like, "Why are you still here?" And then he says, "I want to stay next to you," and she's like, "Fine, but I'm going to sleep."
yeah, but that's why I like the kind of like in the Fincher version because there is that like distance between them, and you can see that like she's in control
Yeah,
of what's happening a bit less direct, if you
yeah.
know what I mean. Like I feel like she's the one who's like, I'll tell you
Hmm.
when this is okay to be like our thing. Yeah.
Which is a shame because once they start building relationships, I have issues with both their endings. Both of them, I don't like both their endings whatsoever because of how over the top things start going in them with
Oh, like the
the
kind of like
money and
the
the
Ocean's 11 sort of like style
yeah.
ending.
I
Yeah.
just like why the fuck did this go this way? Because again, see with the Fincher version, this was my thing. The mystery felt more fun, which was
Because like
weird.
Fincher does mystery better,
Yeah,
right? Okay, like he does detective stuff like
yeah.
super well.
But the only thing with that was see that playing at the same time as this horrible sexual assault stuff was a
Mhm.
little bit jarring at times because sometimes it would be like a straight from this lassie just got really horrendously raped. Now we're going to have a bit of a throwaway joke type thing as this guy's trying to figure out the mystery, which I found
Mhm.
jarring sometimes, but because like the tone of
I
the original is so bleak and it's hard to get through because it is
well,
so fucking bleak. But I don't know what one I would rather go for.
see, I think what the Swedish one does a lot better in terms of like setting tone and pacing and stuff is it has room to breathe a lot
Yes.
more. Whereas uh the Fincher version is so like it's like a lot of cuts and a lot of heavy editing. It's like the pace just keeps
Yeah.
going, which is kind of good sometimes for detective
Yeah.
dramas because like there's nothing worse than sitting about looking at files for 40 minutes and never getting anywhere,
Yeah.
right? Like no one enjoys that kind of
No.
thing. We want to get to a conclusion, so it's good that there's always something in the story to keep your interest.
Hmm.
But like the Swedish one just kind of like it knew the investigation was like secondary to the characters,
Yes.
right? So it kind of gave their moments more time to like settle and breathe, I felt. Yeah.
Fincher did Zodiac, didn't he? Was
I
Fincher was Zodiac? Because this has that vibe to it, with the way the investigation goes.
can't remember if he did Zodiac, did he?
I think
Oh, he
he
did
did.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did. He did
Because
Zodiac. Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
watching it and going, some of the way he done, it, I was like, this feels like Zodiac, which again was a long film but fast paced.
Because I mean, like Seven as well
Yeah,
does the same kind of thing.
yeah.
A lot of.
It's just a lot
Uh,
of like we need to get from A to B quite quickly. You get a lot of information and do it really well. It's just I
mhm.
think that slower pace works to the
Yeah,
original's favour. Because basically,
but
what I'm trying to figure out is which one I prefer. Like this podcast
I
right now is what I'm trying to prefer.
see. This is what's very difficult because each time we've done this, like this
Yeah,
compare contrast thing in the past, we've had a kind of clear, definite winner in one of
yeah,
our eyes, right? Okay, but for me, like I'm on the same page as you right now. I can't tell which one is actually the better version of the story, right?
exactly.
Because there are so many aspects I like. Obviously, cinematography, acting, and music, I choose Fincher's, right?
Yep, I'm totally
But
with you.
like characters, pacing, and like tact,
I
I
think,
choose the Swedish
yeah, I
version.
think tone. I like the
Yeah.
tone of the Swedish version a lot more. But again, there's something about the kind of fast paced editing of Fincher's when it keeps you entertained. You're fucking engaged the whole
Well,
way.
do you know what works really well to its advantage in that sense is the soundtrack,
Yeah,
right? Because like Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, like the kind of like consistent pace of it because it's always like dun dun dun
yeah,
dun 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 dun, and it's like going in loops and going in loops
hmm,
because it's like the working machinery of their brains kind of trying to pump through this
yes,
information and get to the point. It's like it's always there,
hmm,
but it's different tracks, but it's always got that
yeah,
same pace. Whereas the Swedish one has uh, a more generic
yeah, yeah,
soundtrack, not to its detriment. It's still a good
yeah, yeah. No,
soundtrack,
it
right?
is. It's just it's not as
It's not as like unique as that one, yeah, because
yeah.
it just
It's like there's like they had two different versions of a thriller, isn't it? You have the slow
mm,
building thriller of say like a Hannibal, like
yeah,
Silence of the Lambs, where your music cues don't really come in very often, but when they do, they're
mm,
quite big.
yeah.
To something like Seven, where your music cues are dragging you, kicking and screaming through the story. It's like, nope, we're not giving you time to rest. Let's fucking get through.
Well, that's the thing is like the music in the Fincher version of this one, it's as disturbing as the scenes you're watching.
Yes.
Sometimes it's got this kind of horrible, like
Yeah.
grating sort of like
Yeah.
drone sounds and stuff.
Imagine the Fincher version if they went as graphic with a lot of it that the original went, because the original is because it was when it comes to the I think the Fincher version's the one detriment to the investigation is that they go from figuring out the first murder to figuring out all of them, and then they breeze past all the murders very quickly. You don't get any time with them. Where in the original they go to the crime scenes, you see them finding out the photographs, and you see them working together to
Yeah,
figure it. I would have loved a wee bit of that in there. See,
yeah,
like
because it kind of
kind
felt because Fincher's is more like they both come to the same
of yeah,
conclusion separately and
and
then
then
kind of just dive converge. But that's kind of like relating back to the whole kind of theme
yeah,
of them is that they're separate people who are independent in their own
yeah,
rights, but kind of somehow meet in the same
yeah,
way.
yeah. It would
Yeah,
be quite
yeah.
cool to have them just, even if they went in their separate ways to find it, and then have that Seven thing that he did of revealing the crimes.
Mhm.
See that kind of fast cutting through photographs and seeing the kind of horrible bodies and dismemberment in that, just to really hit home how fucking terrible this guy is. Because you
Well,
get a lot of that. No,
they they did.
I,
Yeah, there's a lot of pictures in
I,
the thing.
I
Because
didn't.
remember, she goes through the case file and she's like, because she's like, here's what I found, and she explains each one
Right.
of
Okay.
the crime scenes, and she says it in graphic detail to
Right.
the point where like Michael is like, can you just not?
Right. Okay.
Like, Like, can I just want to stop? Like,
Okay.
you're saying horrible things to me, and like she's like, no, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
not finished talking. And
Yeah.
he's
It's
like,
like,
oh god.
can we quickly? I know we're going to the ending, but I think the actual ending to this ends about 15 minutes before the ending, and I want to talk about that heist thing. I need to talk about it because it annoyed me to fucking no end. So
Because it doesn't make a lot of
it
sense
doesn't.
for a start.
So like the basic of the story is we find out what happens to the girl that they're investigating. No, I'm actually not going to tell you for once because I
Yep.
don't need to. It won't spoil anything of what we're talking about, and you just get to go and watch it. There's a
Yeah.
first.
I think one of the main things to set up first is like there is a completely different plot to what's going on happening in the background of this film. There's three plots in
Yeah.
general, right? And it's still about the libel case that
Yes.
Mikhail had in the first 5 minutes. That's still going in little bits and drips and drabs in the
Mm-hmm.
background until it gets
Yeah.
round to here.
That's where see Fincher does better of letting you know that's still happening because in the original they don't really bring it up again until this heist moment. Really, it does. I think
Mm.
it comes up like once on the investigation, whereas Fincher spends some time going, "Oh look, they want to buy the magazine
I,
because they
I
don't
kind
like
of,
the
I kind of,
competition."
yeah, I kind of feel like in the Swedish version, it was more supposed to be seen as like her gift to him,
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. Like it was like pure, I did this just to be nice to you.
yeah,
Like kind of like remember this? I remembered
yeah.
because I looked into you, so I did this thing to be nice for you.
Yeah, it was basically her goodbye gift thing because
Hmm.
she there was like our thing's done now. Whereas in the end of the Fincher version, they do the heist, and this is the thing that got me. So in the original,
Hmm.
she is a lot more extroverted than that. So see the
Yeah,
idea of her dressing up and stuff. I'm like, okay, same as spy level shit though. Like actual spy level nonsense that
yeah.
goes
She's putting on wigs, putting on costumes,
going to like
getting like
Dubai or the Caribbean or whatever it is he's holding up, and then getting into his hotel so that she can get his details to and steal all his money and then put it into these 5 different bank accounts. And I'm like, what? And then she walks away all glammed up in the original, and I'm like, why is she glammed up now? Like, I get it was just to kind of show what happened, but she looks as if that's her person now. She's like, this is who I am now, and I'm like, I don't know. It just went so over the top. You get a bit more of an explanation of it, and the
mm,
Fincher, and this is what I liked about the Fincher one. She comes back and she's herself again because that's not who she is. She did it for that
yeah.
specific
She's
moment,
just
and then she realizes, Michael, you're a bit of a dick.
well, that's the thing. Is like she's very upfront about it because with Michaela, because she's like, I need the money to do something, and will you do this for me? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he doesn't know that
Aye,
she's going to go do this extravagant round the world trip, like espionage thing to basically make him happy.
yeah,
And on top of that, she comes back and buys him like
a
a
cool,
biker jacket
yeah.
that's like a tailor made for him because she's like, she wants to kind of like,
She's finally found a person outside of her guidance counselor at the beginning that took a stroke that she can actually be herself and open up to. And he's basically, I'm still gonna go pump my business partner who's got
yeah,
a
because
husband.
he's but that's the thing is like what's good about that in the Fincher version is it never once says that he's a good person or that he wasn't planning on
Yeah,
just going back and pumping her. Like
yeah,
that was just never like part of his like
yeah,
operation. Like
because he pumps her on the thing. Like she comes up to do the deal, and then she's like, "I need to go in the morning." She just starts taking
we should maybe like yeah, because like yeah,
his sex, his
a more
sex.
more tactful term, but yeah, they have sex together quite a lot in the movie because they are like essentially just like they're like a couple, but they don't want to be a couple because she's married,
Yeah,
right? And it was obvious though that he was just going to go back to it because
yeah,
even in the final scenes when they do come back to their normal lives, you can see that he's talking to Elizabeth, but he's always kind of looking up at her
yeah.
and making sure she's not like watching what they're
No,
doing and stuff.
yeah. It's really shitty because it's like let's. And that one has a real big character change. Like Liv in the original doesn't have the big character change. It's almost as if she just gets affirmed of who she is. Because like with the big finale death, which I liked in the original a bit better because I felt like
Oh my God, it's so much better.
because she get given the moment where you can do the right thing, even though you probably shouldn't, but prove that you're a good person inside. or let him die. And another
Yeah.
one, she doesn't get that opportunity. I would have wished the car didn't blow up when it did,
Yeah.
and she was ready to shoot. See that moment, like she was about to shoot, the car blows up. She still takes the shot because she gets a fright, but we never know if it was the explosion or her taking the
Yeah,
shot at him.
but instead we get this thing. But like this is two very different approaches to her sociopathy in those films, right?
Hmm.
Because in the Swedish one, she is like she's just a machine at that point. She's like she's out to kill him, right? Okay, she's just running after it. She
Yeah,
says nothing really. She just chases him down, and but when she finds him, he's like panicking. He's going to die, and she could have saved him, right? Where then you see her like her sociopathy through the fact that she's just standing there staring at him like
hmm,
here. I'm just going to leave you to die. Whereas the Fincher one, she literally drops one line of dialogue where she turns to Micheal and goes, "Do I have permission to kill him?" And he just goes, "All right." And she's like, "Yes!"
yeah.
Fucking runs up,
Let's do this.
grabs a gun, and is like, "You're not gonna go fucking kill him."
It would have been better if she grabbed like the pistol in one hand, broke the glass, grabbed a rifle in the other one, and just like dual wheels on the motorbike, like, doo, 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 doo.
But you can see that like that's the two different
Yeah,
approaches where she's just like you're let off the chain and she's just like, yes, I get to kill. You know, you can see it in her eyes that she's still fucked up, but it's a very different approach to fucked
yeah,
up. Yeah.
it is, and that's the difficult. See, like Michael, I've got a definitive version that I like. With
Mm.
Liv, I go back and
Why'd you keep
forward.
calling her Liv?
I don't know. I always thought her name is Liz. Sorry, Liz.
Lisbeth, which is
Liz.
Elizabeth. So you
Liz.
don't, yeah,
Oh
because
God.
it's Olivia. You would
Yeah.
take down to
Sorry,
Liv.
Liz. Sorry,
Yes,
sorry, Liz.
Liz.
I keep. It's you know what it is. My mum's name's Liz, so I keep going. Oh, am I just getting her mixed up with my mum's name? And I'm like, she's got the
No.
same name as my fucking mum, Chris.
So,
But yeah,
yeah, Liz.
I end up talking myself in and out of which version of her I like better, and
Right.
I don't.
Just
Oh,
end up kicking my table. Sorry, my bad.
but
Yeah, like I can't decide which version I
mm,
like better either. I think I prefer the kind of the mannerisms and the uniqueness of Fincher's version,
mm-hmm,
right? Because it's a very like I could see that character in my mind at all times. Like it's very striking, right?
yep,
Whereas I feel like the Swedish version done by Numi is so like obviously edgy
yeah,
that it kind of like is a detriment to the character. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like can you draw me a punk? There you go. We've drawn a punk. So you got a spiky collar and a mohawk, and it's like, yeah.
actually, the mohawk was on Fincher's version at the beginning. She never had the
Yes,
mohawk in the original.
she did.
No,
Did she not?
nope. She had
I'm
the
sure she had it.
she had the emo back hair spiked up with the fringe. She's always just had like the fringe thing going on with the back hair flicky like this.
I'm sure she had. I'm sure she had a mohawk in the first bit. You see her. I'm 100% sure
Oh,
in
I
that.
don't
Like,
know. I don't know.
oh, this is gonna be. I'm gonna actually just Google it
Yeah.
because I want to. I want
Oh
to.
man, please let me be right, because every time this conversation comes up with Michael with something about The Simpsons, I am fucking wrong like 100% now.
Hang on. Girl with
So,
the dragon tits. Yeah. Yep.
does she have a mohawk? Has she got one?
Hang on.
Right.
Continue.
Um, but yeah,
Uh, all the pictures crop off at the top.
of course they
Why
do.
don't they show the top of her head?
Oh, it's so funny. Um,
Oh,
if Donna was in chat, she would be able to chime in, because I think I brought this up when I was watching it
hmm?
at the time. Is like why she got a mohawk in this one, because I felt like it was just a bit too much. But then she never has a mohawk again in the Fincher version. But again, this is me just getting pure nitpicky because I can't find a thing between a lot of the time. But again, if the original has sequels now, the one-dimensional version of her, as you were talking about with Fincher, is because they're probably going to develop her character through the sequels. This is the thing I don't get with the sequels now. I don't know what the sequels are about, but she's loaded. She's like a multi-millionaire loaded now. So are we just
yeah.
getting the violent version of Mission Impossible? Is Tom Cruise going to come and hang off a
And
plane?
as far as I'm aware, because I've spoken to people who are big fans of the books. I think it's more investigative stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but just like with a better budget kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
as in like you put the team together. Actually, tell you, that's one thing I enjoyed as well in the Swedish version is the how um how much more developed her like hacker friend is.
Yeah.
Like he gets more of a kind of personality, whereas in the Fincher one, I keep seeing him and going pure. He's the paper boy from space, doesn't he? Like, I think
You
he
think he
definitely
is?
is that guy, right?
I'm unsure. I have watched Space recently. Do you know I only watched Space for the first time about 2 months ago?
Really?
Really, really. Donna was watching it, and then I suddenly jumped in and was like, man, this is brilliant. Why have I never watched this? Madness.
It's a it is a kind of a show you need to have like been alive during that time
Yeah.
period to get, right? Okay? Like
hmm
it's very
I totally get it when I watch it now because I'm like being a kid at that time. I'd have been like early teenager. I was like, that's funny. But yeah,
Do you know what? One thing I think we haven't actually spoke about, which I thought was quite important,
okay.
is the fact that for an adaptation that is done by an American director with an English-speaking cast, it's still set in the exact same location
Yeah,
and has the exact same character names.
and they never explain why all these very English people have Swedish names with no Swedish accents. It's good that they got some of the family. I think all of the family were Northern European. Don't know if they're
I'm pretty
necessarily
sure.
Swedish,
Yeah.
but I
Like,
know they're from that bit because like the dude that plays Martin, he's
like
well known.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's well known.
It, it's so annoying because like every time you see Stellan Skarsgård now, you're just like, okay, you've got about 15 minutes until you reveal that you're a murderer.
Yeah,
like it's just even when he's being the nice guy, you're just like, come on,
right.
out with it.
You're the
Show
bastard.
me.
Like you're just expecting now to rewatch Thor and then just see Thor in
He
a
does
base.
turn bad in that as well.
That's an Avengers.
Ah, yeah, but he
He
does. He
does.
does get a moment.
I just want to see original Thor before he gets his powers back, and he's just in a basement getting half hung with a carrier bag over his head, just like, what went wrong?
I could make it like the intro to Thor Ragnarok, where he's just got him strung up upside down.
He's like, yeah, I do what I do, man.
Oh heck yeah, I was right. He was the paper boy in space.
Hey, there we go.
Yay!
Hey, we got one right. We did it. But yeah, I don't know what one because I like to have a definitive thing at the end of one of these. I like to go, this is the thing, and I don't
Well,
have it.
do you know what's great? I think this is actually a good thing because what this shows is that if done by the right directors in the right moments, any version can be good,
Yes.
right? Which is a wonderful thing. It means that there is no like outright winner.
Yeah.
It's just a well done
It is a
piece
treat.
of cinema.
It's a treat to cinema. You get two chances to experience this film now.
Yep.
This is the interesting thing. The absolute punt they took to make this film for like an American audience. That is a punt because this is not
saying
a...
like keeping it Swedish,
Yeah.
like keeping it like as gritty and horrible as it is. Like how did they like? I almost feel like this wasn't a studio thing.
No.
I feel like Fincher just wanted to make an adaptation of that book.
It feels like a director thing, doesn't it? And they put up a big bunch of the funding. Like basically the Ryan Reynolds thing with Deadpool, completely different things, but the idea of like he wanted to do that bad, he was just like, I'll give you as much money as I possibly can to get this made. That's what this feels like Fincher or a producer even, or just somebody with a bit of money went, I think this would be brilliant. I've seen the Swedish version. I want this made. And it's cool to see that every now and then. It's actually really good to see that every now and then. Don't know when we're going to see stuff like that as much anymore, because we spoke about this before of like taking these kind of risks on stuff now, especially after the COVID situation. It's going to be a weird one to see what kind of people are going to throw money at things that are our chance, like taking a real risk.
It might almost be the opposite because you could have the Netflix effect whereby if you just throw enough stuff at the wall, something will stick. So what you do is you take your budget and you split it up into 18 movies instead of one, right? And you let them just like struggle it out and see what comes from it. That's what I would do if I was in charge.
But that's a good idea because there's that thing about some of the best things I've seen have been shorts, and it's because they have no money. And what they make are brilliant because limitations breeds real creativity and real storytelling. The minute you give
That's
them a
yeah.
gigantic budget, they're just going to go, well, see, instead of going to find this cool location that might be a bitch to get to, but it's cheaper, let's just, it's a wee bit, it's a wee bit cheaper. Let's just CGI it and save us time. We'll make the money back in the other end. And you're like, awesome.
Yeah. Um. Well, in saying that, I think uh, Fincher said, I don't know if this was quite a while back. I don't know if it would still be in production, but he was planning on doing another remake of, I think it was Strangers on a Train he wanted to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. But
Yeah.
I'm happy to see anything for Fincher making. I like,
To be fair, it's been a wee while since
yeah.
he's done a film. 2014 was his
What was that one?
last major one. Gone Girl?
I've not watched that yet. Because again,
Oh, Gone Girl is, oh boy.
don't it
Good,
is,
good
it's
film.
again, it's a film that I wanted to watch with Donna because I'm a big wussy. It's like seeing when I was watching the remake of this. Donna was on her lunch. She's like, "You're not actually going to watch this bit with me here." I'm like, "Yes, because I don't know if my heart can take watching this again. So I need the moral support." Because that, oh, man, I don't even want to really talk about them. They're done horribly
Yeah.
brilliant. Is the best way I could probably describe it. Like they're done it
Yeah.
really well, and it makes you feel horrible inside. And that's
Hmm.
a complete testament how they do it when they do the
But
sexual
yeah,
assault
yeah.
stuff. It's
I mean, I feel like, yeah, like it overall, I kind of prefer they wouldn't be as graphic, but understandably so, making it graphic points out the actual horrific nature of
yeah,
the acts, which is something obviously we want to like shy away from as human beings, but like knowing that that's
yeah.
a
It's
thing,
knowledge.
it makes you feel worse. It makes you feel fucking worse. Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes you feel a lot worse. Yeah.
it's that thing where because there was a point that I didn't want to talk about really, but I feel like it's doing a disservice not to bring them up as you're saying there. It's like
Mm.
I know people will say it glorifies it. I don't think that's the case. The way I always look at these things, it's kind of knowledge because realistically, it's the same with murder done in a way that's not about action. See, when you see murder and things that are meant to be serious, it lets
Mm.
you know shit like that actually happens in the world and how fucking horrible and terrible it looks and actually is to see it.
Yeah, see like that's I think the best example of like taking murder into account, like actually and kind of respecting it in a horrible way is Talented Mr. Ripley,
Okay,
where have you ever seen that
no,
film?
is
Right,
it
because like
is that the one that ends up being based in Italy later on?
yeah, mostly
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
but
just
there's
don't
like
know. Man.
because most films like, obviously when someone gets like killed, it's all kind of like pure and it's spectacle and it's like pure like something stupid. And this one like a guy gets like murdered, but it's like the most uncomfortable accidental sort
Mm-hmm.
of manner that like everyone just kind of goes, oh shit, oh fuck, oh like, oh no, like the sheer terror of the situation and what's actually happening is on everyone's faces, and I've never seen that again in any other film, and it's just that. Oh God, it should be
Yeah,
respected as, oh shit, you just killed an actual human being. What the fuck? Like, it's terrifying.
one that does that kind of well in a weird film you'd think is Alpha Dogs, the Justin Timberlake film. So Alpha Dog's all about this younger guy that hangs about with older people, and then I can't remember it because it's been a long time, but I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was ever going to enjoy like a Justin Timberlake weird crime drug dealing type film because it's kind of
Yeah.
like almost like a Spring Break thing that gets out of hand. So like he ends up in with a bad crowd, and then the bad crowd end up doing really. But the young boy in it, there's a kind of scene of death with him. It's an old film, so spoiler, I don't care because it's
Yeah.
worth talking about. See when I'm pretty sure it's like proper hardened gang members kill him, and all his pals are there when it's happening, or he dies in somebody's arms, and it is heart wrenching to look at.
Hmm.
It's like I've never really been sad outside of say like maybe like a war film when they do stuff like that. Sometimes they can hit it on the head with war, like
Mm.
especially World War Two films. Let's say Empire Arriving at they know how to hit an emotional tone with death because of the
Hmm.
situation. But they've done this, and gang stuff never end up having an emotional connection that way outside of say like older like 90s like Boys in the Hood type stuff because
Mm.
they're showing you how shit that life is. I watched this
Yeah.
boy die and cried. I don't cry at people
Yep.
dying in films, and I was in absolute tears because Justin Timberlake looked like someone who watched someone get shot in front of him. He broke down, and it was brilliant to watch. It was
Do you know
horrible.
it is so fucking weird to think that Justin Timberlake is actually a fucking baller
Yeah,
actor. like, and I'm not just saying that in the kind of like just in like acting respects. That guy can turn his like hand to
Hmm.
anything. It's so like I've seen him do comedy. I've seen him do like serious acting. I mean, he was in flipping Social
Yeah.
Network, and he's fucking fantastic in that. Like why hasn't he done more? Like
I, s-
he's only done like shit stuff on the side, and
yeah.
it's like you're good, man.
I,
Get back in
do
it.
you know what that has that feel of? Sadly, the name, like his name has that thing
Mm,
attached to him of being the guy from NSYNC.
yeah.
Because there's a few like that that probably could transition into acting better, but they get typecasted because well you were this beforehand, so no. Which is a shame because yeah, it's decent. I love them in Social Network. He is the biggest dick in the world. And I'm like, man, you played that brilliantly.
Yep. I don't know. Like, well,
Hmm.
fair enough. Fair play to him. But we should do more Fincher films. I think that's something we need to get
I
a
am
season
so
of.
into that because I love Fincher films. It's like again, it's one of the other cross. So we've got two directors we find out of doing this podcast that we
Mm.
enjoy. We've got Fincher and we've
Yes.
got Dennis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
What do you watch?
We need to edit this back in for the YouTube
Yeah,
videos where we just get the Google Translate to go
yeah.
Villeneuve
It's like
over the
we
top of
found
us.
two that we really enjoy, and I'm happy to watch some Fincher stuff.
Yeah.
I think.
But
Sorry, on you go. You had a
I was gonna say that kind of leads us into like what are we watching next?
right. Okay, I want to put a veto on the double bill because this
Yeah.
week was hard
Oh.
to get through everything because we had three films, then I had 2.5 hours, about 2 hours worth of Simpsons to get through this week. I
Yeesh.
am I'm actually pretty fucking exhausted, especially since I did Girl with a Dragon Tattoo today, both of them back to
Oh
back.
God.
So I exhausted me.
Double bill of disappointment. Yeah.
Um, so before we get into what we're going to talk, no, we'll pick a film for next week. I
Because I mean, are we still in the month of August, unfortunately? So are we going to
right.
do
Okay,
another
right.
one?
We'll do one more double bill. We'll get it out the road, right? We might just have to do something a next Netflix related deep dive thing then for next week, right?
Right.
So if I think Rec, if we can find copies of Rec, we can have a hurrah. We'll go a horror film to end it off. That's not.
Is Rec particularly different, would you
I
say?
don't know. That's the problem. I've just been told about it, and
Because I think they're actually pretty much the exact same thing.
are they? Okay,
Hmm.
then we'll have to have a think then of we'll come up with something because I don't know at the top of my head. Two.
Well, I mean, as I said, like, because the only other one I could think of
Oh,
was Suspiria,
yeah,
but Suspiria is two completely different
yeah.
films.
Because I'm pretty
It's
sure
like,
there's a couple of Chinese like hard boiled films that or Korean ones. Oh my god, I'm pretty sure there's a Korean crime film that ended up being the inspiration or like almost a one-to-one thing of a very big like American 90s one like Lethal Weapon or something or like something like that. Like there was one that
was
was
it like Point Break? I'm thinking that's in my head for
yeah,
some reason. I don't
I
know.
know there is one.
Like,
I might actually look into that, see if I can find it. I would love to do that
mm.
because then they go in a completely different direction with it. When
Because I know that Internal Affairs is a remake of an Asian film, but I can't remember the name of
I
it.
think it might be,
Probably called Internal Affairs.
I think it might be that I'm on about. I might
Mm.
actually be that. So if I can find versions of that kicking about online, that would be fun because I think they will be pretty different vibe because Korean
Yeah,
cinema is very different from American cinema. That could be cool,
yeah,
right?
I agree.
So possibly Internal Affairs if it turns out that's the film we're talking about. If not, I'll tweet out the film that actually is.
We will do a little bit of research. We'll see what's available to
Yeah,
us. Because trying to find both versions of Girl with the Dragon
was
Tattoo
a
was a
nightmare. Was a
struggle.
fucking
Like, my
nightmare.
God, like one on Prime and one off of sources.
Yes.
My DVD collection is
Yeah.
where I found the other
That was like
one.
me. I found the Joker. Turns out I had it on Blu-ray sitting there.
Yeah.
So a couple of announcements I think to clear up for everybody because things are changing for this for us. Everything's changing. Like I shaved my head and everything for today. Look more professional for
I was thinking like as soon as something changed, I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
it.
Where's Chris's hair gone?
It's never there long enough. So first off, the Simpsons podcast will be coming to an end on not this Tuesday, but possibly next, or whenever Michael as able to work his shifts around, because Michael's shifts, he works in a casino at night time, and it's not fair to drag him out his bed and everything to try and do watching Simpsons and stuff. So we've made an executive decision that we're going to need to drop that one, which once that happens, we will be moving deep dives to a different day. We don't know what day yet, so next week will still be Thursday, but we're going to move it, and then that might change what Friday podcast will be. It could end up being a lot more casual, so that Michael can pop in and out wherever he wants, instead of having definitive films that we watch every Friday and things.
Yeah, I think we've been doing the seasons as kind of like just a way to kind of like expand our horizons.
Yes.
Really, like the video game season was a lot of fun because most of it was trash.
Yes.
Remakes has been a struggle because a lot of them are like, they're just so not even slightly different that it's not even worth talking about sometimes, or they're just so fucking cringeworthy and hard to find.
It's like the one today. Two amazing films, but because they are so closely linked, it's hard to talk about them.
I mean, we can find stuff to talk about, obviously, because we have, right? But I think we should go back to just finding some garbage, man.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a season of shit you find on Amazon Prime, like, because like there is a lot
Samurai
of
Cop.
random ass garbage on there, right? I could watch some of that
Samurai
just
Cop.
for something to talk about.
We need to watch Samurai Cop. Remember I showed you the thumbnail for it, and it was just gold.
Yep.
Well, what's fuck?
I'm ready for Samurai Cop. I'm not lying.
Oh my god, I want to do one of like old kind of shit kung fu films at one point, just to see what the fuck we could talk about with it outside of it being a shit kung fu film. And
I really liked the bit where he went wata and hiya and kicked the guy. That was my favorite bit.
Yes. I liked the part where he flew for 5 minutes before his foot hit his face.
Multiple different camera angles, one from the side, one from coming down, and then one that hits him directly on.
Perfect. Yep. Another thing that I would like to bring on, and it was something that you brought up when we were having discussions about off stream, is to do guests at some point, to bring people in if they've got something they like to talk about and they want to talk about. Because I would quite like to get my pal Chrissy on at one point to talk about horror films, because he watches the biggest cheese when it comes to horror ever, and I think it'd be a good laugh to chat about that.
Hey, if he wants to do the Suspiria episode that we're not doing, then that's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
So we'll see about maybe doing stuff like that, and probably over the next few months experiment with some stuff on what we want to do with this now, with real life slowly but surely coming back. Because
maybe,
yeah, it's like I'm in the process of looking for, real work and all that nonsense. So yeah, we'll have a think about stuff we can do, where it might be like interview segments or anything like that, like weirder films, and just days where we actually just jump on and talk shite about what's going on instead of specifically films and that. So it's going to be exciting.
It's just our podcast really at this point, right? It's not necessarily always about films.
Yeah,
we're just always the worst. That's us.
Yeah. It's like the reason we done films was it was a nice.
Let's talk about video games.
I played Total War and kicked the shit out of Lou Boo, stole his spear again, so I'm a happy lad.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so other news for me tomorrow, because I never ever promote myself. I'll be streaming at 12 o'clock, drawing again. I've not done anything since Tuesday because streaming drawing is a pain in the arse sometimes. So Saturday afternoon, if you are about, come watch me doodle some nonsense. And if you're lucky, I'll draw a big Bobby. Because I've not drew a Bobby on stream yet. Can you believe it?
That's the beginning drawing. Yeah. So what you have to practice with.
Yeah, for sure. Will you be streaming tonight, Mark? Have you got things in the works?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think I might stream tonight, but I'm kind of not too sure because I'm planning on doing like a 12-hour stream this weekend. So
maybe not.
I'm going to be fucking exhausted.
So what's the stream for? What's the 12-hour stream for?
It's because I managed to get to 100 followers. Hey! And it keeps going somehow. I don't know who these people are and why they want to watch me, but I'm just doing a wee celebratory thing to kind of say thanks to everyone. So I'm going to drain the soul from my body for the purposes of comedy and making other people happy.
Awesome. So. Well, congrats for getting to 100. This podcast has got to 19 now because I don't have any alerts.
19!
Yeah. 19
Heck
people find us interesting enough being dicks about films. Can you believe it?
No, because I don't think we know 19
No,
people personally.
no,
So
what the
who's
fuck?
watching
I know,
this?
who is it? If you're there, say hello one time.
Yeah, yeah, just fucking chat to us. We're not just here to
Yeah,
rant at the about movies.
yeah,
We want to talk to people as
yeah.
well. We're all
Yeah,
down for
that's
that.
how we're quite going to try and go a bit more casual on a Friday one because, like yesterday, doing Joker and with what we're talking about today, it's really hard to interact with
Yeah.
chat when we're having very serious about how the fuck do we differentiate between the two or what we like better and stuff. So
Mm.
we're going to go more
Mhm.
casual, and I'll take us away. I'll get us out. We have. Oh, I did it wrong.
Oh my
First
God,
time in
Chris, you had one
ages.
job.
It's the first time in ages.
One job.
It's always a pleasure, and we've been always the worst. Till next time, everyone. Cheerio, bye.
Sayonara.